Developing right now on Morning News Now, no deal. This morning, President Trump rejecting Iran's response to the U.S. proposal to end the war, calling it totally unacceptable. Iranian state media saying the plan focused on security and shipping traffic in and around the Strait of Hormuz and did not address Iran's nuclear program. Now, the energy secretary acknowledging that an interim deal may not include a nuclear agreement.
The end point is going to be free flow of traffic through the international waters that are the Straits of Hormuz and an end to the Iranian nuclear program.
So it's possible an interim deal might not address all of the concerns regarding Iran's nuclear program.
Certainly that's got to be possible.
Here at home, the conflict sending gas prices soaring as the Trump administration considers ways to lower the cost for everyday Americans. We will bring you the latest. New this morning, more than a dozen Americans now back in the U.S. from that cruise ship hit by the hantavirus, with one passenger testing positive for the potentially deadly disease and another showing symptoms. We will take you to Nebraska, where all the passengers will be monitored. Plus, a tale of two climates on the West Coast, millions of people bracing for record high temperatures, while in other parts of the U.S., we are seeing freeze alerts and rain. We're tracking it all as you start your work week. And crying foul, growing backlash from soccer fans ahead of the FIFA World Cup, why some organizers say that they dropped the ball when it comes to ticket prices. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off. Thank you so much for starting your week with me. We are going to begin our show with new uncertainty over a peace deal to end the war with Iran and reopen that critical Strait of Hormuz. On Sunday, President Trump dismissed Tehran's counter-proposal to America's proposal just hours after it was received. The president called it, quote, totally unacceptable. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry responded just this morning, saying his country's plan was, quote, generous and responsible. Now, the impasse with Iran is sending oil prices back up yet again as the president turns his focus now to a high-stakes trip to China. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us with the latest here. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. And President Trump's upcoming trip to China was delayed once to focus on the war with Iran. Now Democrats are arguing the conflict weakens his ability to cut deals there, though administration officials are predicting good news for American workers. President Trump preparing for this week's high-stakes trip to China to meet with leader Xi Jinping as the war with Iran and its global economic fallout hang over the talks. The president rejected Iran's latest peace proposal, calling it totally unacceptable, without offering details. Iranian state media reporting it focused on ending the war and on security and shipping traffic in the Gulf and Strait of Hormuz, without mentioning nuclear weapons, something President Trump has called a must, reasserting the U.S. will get a hold of Iran's enriched uranium at some point.
We have that very well surveilled. If anybody got near the place, we will know about it and we'll blow them up.
Citing that very issue, Israel's prime minister underscoring the war is not over.
There's still nuclear material, enriched uranium that has to be taken out of Iran. There's still enrichment sites that have to be dismantled.
The U.S. Energy Secretary on NBC's Meet the Press suggesting an interim deal might not fully address Iran's nuclear program.
Certainly that's got to be possible.
While acknowledging gas prices will remain high until the conflict is over and defending the administration for not securing the Strait of Hormuz from the start.
We needed to degrade their infrastructure to project terror around the Middle East, to threaten oil supplies in the long run. And we'll deal with this.
Democrats pushing back.
I will not support arms to the United States or any of our allies, including Israel, in the context of a war that is endangering our national security and Israel's.
With no deal to end the war in sight. Iran insists its nuclear program is only for civilian needs, but an international watchdog says its enriched uranium goes beyond what's needed for peaceful purposes. It's also unclear who's leading negotiations, with Iranian officials finally acknowledging their new supreme leader suffered injuries to his back and knee, they say, though they're adamant he's recovering in good health. Savannah?
All right, Alice, thank you so much. Well, in that interview with Meet the Press that Alice just mentioned, Energy Secretary Chris Wright said the Trump administration is, quote, open to all ideas to lower prices at the pump. Moderator Kristen Walker has more on their conversation. Hi, Kristen. Good morning.
Hello there, Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke with Energy Secretary Chris Wright about the possibility of the Trump administration suspending the federal gas tax. Let's talk about this debate over the gas tax. States like Georgia, Indiana, Utah have suspended their gas taxes, and there's a bill in Congress, actually, that would temporarily suspend the federal gas tax, which is 18 cents a gallon currently. Would you support suspending the federal gas tax to give families relief right now?
Yeah, all measures that can be taken to lower the price at the pump and lower the prices for Americans, this administration is in support of. We are constantly looking for different ideas. We've taken a number of actions, releasing oil from our strategic petroleum reserves, getting 30 other nations to do that in coordination with us. We revised the EPA regulations on summer gasoline blend to make it easier for American refineries to produce more gasoline. We've been in contact with all American refiners, asking them to do shorter maintenance work this spring so they can keep pumping out more products. So we are working every day to offset this rise in prices because of a critical conflict in Iran, to drive prices down, and we're open to all such ideas.
So this is significant what you're saying. You're saying that President Trump would be open to suspending the federal gas tax?
We're open to all ideas. Everything has trade-offs, all ideas to lower prices for American consumers and American businesses.
You can see my full interview and a lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Kristen Walker, thank you so much. Well, for more on all this, let's bring in NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz. Megan, good morning. So we just heard there the Energy Secretary say that everything has trade-offs. So let's talk through what that is. What are the potential trade-offs of pausing the federal gas tax? And then how much of an impact would something like that actually have on prices? Would it really be a relief for Americans?
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, so one of the trade-offs could be the way that it impacts the Highway Trust Fund. The federal gas tax, it provides a lot of funding for the Highway Trust Fund, which helps with projects related to highways and mass transit programs. Now, ultimately, this would require an act of Congress to ultimately move to suspend the federal gas tax. As Kristen had mentioned in that interview, Democrats in March had introduced a bill in order to try to temporarily suspend the federal gas tax until October. Now, that gas tax is at about 18 cents per gallon. But according to the Bipartisan Policy Center, it estimated that if the federal gas tax was ultimately suspended, it wouldn't ultimately go down. The price of gas per gallon would not ultimately decrease by the full 18 cents, but instead it estimated that it would decrease by about 10 to 16 cents per gallon. That's because of the way that the gas tax would impact and be impacted by gas suppliers and distributors as well. But, you know, this comes amid these soaring gas prices right now. Yesterday, the national average gas price stood at $4.52 per gallon. That's up more than 50% since the war started. And also in that interview on Meet the Press, Energy Secretary Chris Wright declined to speculate on the possibility of gas prices ultimately hitting $5 per gallon, saying that he did not want to predict prices. Savannah.
Megan, I also do want to turn now. We've got some big news on this redistricting battle that we are really just seeing across the country in quite a few states, all ahead of the November midterms. So on Friday, Virginia's Supreme Court struck down a new congressional map that would have created 4 more Democratic districts. Our viewers might remember this as big news because it was just approved by voters in a statewide vote last month. What did the court say here?
Yeah, so this ultimately was a procedural issue. The Supreme Court, the Virginia Supreme Court, had ruled that Democratic lawmakers did not ultimately meet the procedural requirements to put that constitutional amendment on the ballot here. But this is ultimately marks a loss for Democrats because they were not ultimately able to get that new map that could have given them the possibility of gaining up to 4 additional seats. So Democratic lawmakers across the country were pushing back against this, criticizing the court's decision and vowing to push back and looking toward the November midterm elections as well. I want you to take a listen to how Congressman Ted Lieu of California, what he had to say about this over the weekend on CBS.
So what the Virginia Supreme Court did was not only wrong, it was disgraceful. They basically said, hey, Virginia, spend all this taxpayers' money holding an election, do all this stuff, and oh, by the way, just kidding, that election didn't count. The court could have stopped this by not having the election in the first place. We're going to look at all available options. We're definitely going to try to keep fighting this battle.
We also heard after this court decision from Virginia, a Virginia Democrat, Senator Mark Warner, who pointed to elections this fall, saying that Democrats will still compete everywhere, and he predicted that Virginians will send a strong message about the kind of leadership they want. We also heard separately from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who said that we are exploring all options to overturn this shocking decision, again pointing to the elections this November and predicting that Democrats would be able to flip the House. But, you know, ultimately this is the latest court decision that puts Democrats at a disadvantage when it comes to the redistricting battle that is echoed across the country, heading closer to the midterm elections. So ultimately, in terms of the states that have passed these new maps within the past year, now Republicans have the opportunity to potentially pick up 14 new seats compared to Democrats who could potentially pick up about 6 new seats. Savannah.
Megan, quickly, before I let you go, Alice mentioned President Trump is headed to China this week for a state visit with President Xi Jinping. What do we know about priorities for both sides here?
So economic and trade issues are expected to be a major topic of conversation. This comes amid this backdrop of tariff tensions during President Trump's second term. Now, of course, this also comes amid the ceasefire and the war in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz being mostly closed as well. So that, too, is expected to be a prominent topic of conversation. Yesterday, a senior administration official had told reporters that President Trump has spoken with President Xi multiple times about Iran and Russia and revenue provided to those countries, as well as the possibility of potential weapons exports, saying that the senior administration official saying that those conversations were likely to continue. Savannah.
All right, Megan, thank you so much. And a quick programming note, NBC News Nightly news anchor, I should say, Tom Yamas, will be hosting special editions of Nightly News and Top Story live from Beijing starting tomorrow through the end of the week. You can catch that coverage of the president's trip by tuning in to Nightly News. It's on NBC at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and Top Story, that's right here on NBC News Now at 7 p.m. Eastern every night. Well, this morning, millions across the U.S. are dealing with spring weather whiplash. In the southeast, some states were hit with destructive storms and baseball-sized hail overnight. And then out west, several states are battling dangerous heat waves. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park has the details.
Severe storms targeting the southeast, from relentless rain to flooded roads to damaging winds tearing through neighborhoods. Lightning striking dangerously close to homes. 18 million from Texas to Mississippi bracing for even more destructive weather overnight. Oklahoma taking a direct hit from hail of all sizes, some as big as baseballs.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
The pellets of ice slamming into roofs, denting cars, and even spooking farm life.
Oh, this is awful.
Watch these horses sprinting to safety as hail crashes all around them. The National Weather Service confirming a tornado touchdown in Delco, North Carolina. This driver appearing to capture what could be part of that same storm system. And out west, the brutal heat baking 11 million across California and Arizona, with afternoon highs climbing into the triple digits. On Saturday, emergency responders rescuing multiple hikers from Camelback Mountain.
These are very steep, very difficult trails to hike. And when you have the sun beating down on you for 3-4 hours, it's going to take a toll.
More record-breaking temperatures expected in the days ahead, with another round of extreme weather right behind it. Kathy Park, NBC News.
Oh, that hail is no joke. Let's bring in meteorologist Andrea Romero for an update on the conditions in your area. Hi, Andrea. Good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. And we're going to begin talking about the heat because this is record-breaking heat, dangerous heat that's impacting here the western part of the country, especially parts of California and Arizona, with over 11 million people that will be under heat alerts for not only today, but the next couple of days, because we're expecting this hot weather to continue to impact all this area. In fact, we have the potential for record temperatures all the way from the Pacific Northwest through Texas, even parts of Colorado, and that will be through Thursday with triple-digit highs, especially here in Phoenix and Las Vegas and Palm Springs for the next couple of days. Look at Phoenix. Today we're expecting temperatures around 108 and 109 degrees, so that's dangerous heat. Definitely a day you want to stay weather aware, and you want to keep an eye on your vulnerable neighbors and find those moments throughout the day where you can find some shade and definitely stay hydrated. Now, as far as severe weather, we continue to track some storms here in the southeast, especially over parts of Texas. This is all part of that frontal system that extends into the mid-Atlantic. Some locally heavy rain will continue throughout the day here along the Gulf Coast. A few strong storms, especially extending all the way from Miami, Florida into Wilmington, North Carolina. And that weather will continue to trek on eastward, and that front tomorrow will be moving across parts of the Florida Peninsula with urban flooding quite possible in southeast Florida. And that's because we're expecting rainfall amounts of maybe 1 to 3 inches, especially in those cities with poor drainage. And then while the southeast is dealing with the storms up north, it's chilly temperatures this morning. 22 million people are being impacted by those frost and freeze alerts. That May chill is definitely still sticking around for those locations with highs that are in the 30s in Green Bay, even in the 20s in Duluth. Fargo is coming in at 39 degrees. So while we have that record warm temperature, with above average temperatures in the west, we have that cool northeast temperature today, but we can see that that hot air will start moving on eastward, and by late week, it's going to be quite pleasant for May in parts like New York and Norfolk and Cleveland. We're looking at temperatures that are going to be going back into the 70s, and by next weekend, we could be dealing with temperatures into the 80s. And we do have that fire risk up in the northern plains and parts of the Rockies, so we want to make sure we also take care in those areas.
No kidding. A lot going on. Important safety reminders.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We'll see you in an hour. Well, now let's get to another big story. Overnight, there have been some big developments in that deadly hantavirus outbreak. The 17 Americans who were aboard the cruise ship at the center of this have now arrived back in the United States. Health officials here say one has tested positive for hantavirus while another is showing symptoms. Spanish officials say that positive test was actually inconclusive and a second found it negative. In addition, a French woman also tested positive. She is in the hospital where officials in France say her condition worsened overnight. In all, at least 3 people have died as a result of this outbreak. We have NBC News correspondent Anil Hamamjan joining us from Spain's Canary Islands, as well as NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal, who's joining us from Omaha, Nebraska. Good morning to you both. A lot to get to here. Camila, I'll begin with you. And this big news that some of those Americans are potentially testing positive or showing symptoms. What do we know about them at this point?
That's right, Savannah. So there are 2 passengers, one that officials say has mild symptoms, the other that they say tested mildly positive for the Andes strain of the virus. So essentially the difference here is that officials with the World Health Organization are saying that that person who Americans say tested positive had 2 different tests done, and one tested negative, the other one tested positive. And so Americans are treating it as a positive test until they conduct more tests and really confirm whether or not this was a false positive or this is indeed a positive case. So what that means is that both of these people will go to essentially a different facility here at the location behind me. This is a biocontainment unit, which means it's a much more specialized unit that has very high-tech filtration systems. It's isolation rooms. It is an area where there is sanitation and de-sterilization of everything essentially that is used. And that's separate from the other area of this medical unit here behind me, where it's more of a quarantine location. And officials had described it as, say, hotel rooms, for example, where people will still have the option to have connections through digital chats or through virtual conversations with people. They say they have gym equipment, their meals delivered to them. So that's more of essentially a hotel stay for the rest of the passengers. Now, the question is, how long will all of these passengers have to stay here? U.S. officials have not really said if they will have to stay here or for how long. So we are waiting for a press conference to hopefully get more confirmation on that, Savannah.
Yeah, Camila, a couple more questions on that. First, let's just talk through what these Americans have been through and a little bit more about what happens next. So tell us about this journey home for the 17 of them. But then also, I think what you're saying is behind you is this specialized unit where this positive test will be specifically quarantined with the type of equipment that was able to handle things like Ebola and I know the early days of the COVID pandemic. But walk us through what we think happens generally now for the 17 of them in terms of quarantining, when they go home, how they go home. What does any of that look like?
Correct. So this is the national quarantine unit. And like I mentioned, there are essentially two separate areas. One would be the biocontainment unit. The other just would be the area where they would quarantine. And so the idea is to get them assessed as soon as they essentially can do that this morning, because we saw the 3 buses arrive here. They landed at around 1:30 local time in the morning, a highly trained team of doctors, nurses, and staff ready to essentially help them in these next steps. Now, the question is, like I said, how long? We do not have answers to any of that, but we know that each and every one of them would be assessed and then that decision would be made. The problem with this virus is that it could incubate for a period of about 6 weeks, which is why it's possible that we're now seeing symptoms, even though these people have been on this ship for weeks. And so the question for authorities will be, how long do they think it's necessary for them to continue to monitor whether it's here or whether they go home and continue to do temperature checks, because that's what some of the passengers that were already off the ship were told to do, was to just monitor themselves. So we'll see what officials decide in terms of what they essentially see necessary after the assessment this morning, Savannah.
Danielle, let's bring you in here. What do we know about the French woman who's in the hospital after testing positive? It sounds like her condition has taken a turn for the worse. And any news on other passengers on board that were taken back to their home countries?
Yeah, yesterday, when the 5 French passengers were evacuated, within hours, we heard from the country's prime minister in France putting out a statement saying that she started showing symptoms on the flight to Paris. Less than 24 hours later, we now find out that she has tested positive and that her condition is, quote, deteriorating. It is a bit of a surprise, and I'll tell you why, because over the past few days, the World Health Organization was really reinforcing the point that all passengers on board were asymptomatic. And we had seen over the past few days as well other cases, namely the flight attendant from that KLM flight from Johannesburg to Amsterdam. There was another woman in Spain. Both had developed symptoms and their tests had come back negative as well. So there was hope that this would be yet another case. Some good news to point out: the British man in South Africa who has the virus, we understand from Reuters, they are reporting that his condition is improving. So a bit of good news there, Savannah.
Oh, definitely. Danielle, walk us through the evacuation we saw take place yesterday. How did that all come together?
Yeah, we were here in the very early morning hours of Sunday morning in the dark when we saw the ship appear, and it has anchored off the coast of this very remote port in Tenerife, and it has not moved. Instead, what we have been seeing are crews in hazmat suits ferrying the passengers, 5 passengers at a time. They're not able to take anything more than a few of the basic belongings like cell phones. And as soon as they step on land, almost immediately they are boarding buses heading straight for the airport, which is about a 10 minutes drive. And there they are hosed down, decontaminated before boarding their flights back home. 94 people were evacuated yesterday from 19 different countries, 7 different flights. 1 more flight is expected today to the Netherlands. There are Australians on board. We understand there was a technical issue with their flight. They will be disembarking within a few hours. The ship was refueling this morning. But once they're out, the ship carrying 30 crew members as well as the body of a deceased passenger will be setting sail for the Netherlands, where the ship will be decontaminated. Savannah.
All right, Danielle and Camila, thank you both very much. We have much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, fallout ahead of the FIFA World Cup as more fans say ticket prices are keeping them out of the stands. Up first, the developing news out of Ukraine, where a 3-day truce with Russia is set to come to an end. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A 3-day pause in fighting between Russia and Ukraine is expected to end later today, despite hopes from President Trump that it would be extended. The U.S.-backed truce coincided with Russia's Victory Day parade on Saturday. That celebrates the then Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany during World War II and remembers the millions of people who lost their lives. Well, speaking after the parade, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he thinks the war with Ukraine is coming to an end. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us with more on all this. Raf, good morning. So yesterday, both countries accused each other, actually, of ceasefire violations. What are they alleging? Was it ever likely that this would be extended?
Savannah, good morning. This has become a grimly familiar pattern where you have a ceasefire announced temporarily between Russia and Ukraine, and then both sides immediately accuse the other of violating it. We've heard from the Ukrainians. Russia continued their aerial attacks over the weekend, and President Zelensky says there were 150 clashes along that massive front line in eastern Ukraine. Zelensky says the Russians are not complying with the ceasefire and not even really trying to. The Russians, for their part, are saying that they shot down 57 Ukrainian drones in Russian airspace yesterday, that Ukraine was continuing its aerial attacks. It never really looked likely that this ceasefire was going to be extended, and it does seem that the main priority for Vladimir Putin was to try to stop the shooting at least somewhat while that victory parade went ahead in Moscow.
So, Raf, President Putin says he thinks the war is coming to an end soon. Why did he say that? How does he see it ending? Do we know?
Yeah, these are interesting comments from the Russian leader, and it may reflect the fact that as difficult as this war is for Ukraine, it is also taking a toll in Russia. I'll give you just one example. He was speaking at the end of that victory parade you're seeing on your screen there. The hallmark of the victory parade during the Putin era has been seeing lines of Russian tanks, advanced missiles rolling through the streets of Moscow, and they did not do that this year. And it seems the reason why is they were deeply concerned that the Ukrainians might attack in the very heart of the Russian capital using drones, might strike that equipment. On top of that, you've got prices going up in Russia. You've got a lot of young men being killed or wounded on the battlefield. This war does not seem to be popular inside Russia. And so it may be that Putin wanted to give his people at least some hope it may be coming to an end. I should say 2 of his senior aides at the Kremlin have gone on to sort of pour cold water on this, saying that they think that this fight is going to go on for a while. Putin did suggest he would be prepared to negotiate with the European Union, and specifically with Gerhard Schroeder, who is the former Chancellor of Germany. He's someone who's become quite pro-Russian since leaving office, and he is unlikely to be an acceptable choice for NATO, for Ukraine, and for the European Union. Savannah.
Raf, so if President Putin is keen on negotiating with the European Union, where does this leave the U.S.? Do President Trump and his main negotiators, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, have a role here? What could we see unfold?
So, Savannah, we actually interviewed President Zelensky in the Middle East back in March, and we were obviously very focused on the war in Iran, but I had the opportunity to ask him exactly that question. Are Witkoff and Kushner still really involved in this process? He gave us kind of an interesting answer. He said they are totally focused on the war with Iran right now. That is where all of their bandwidth is directed. He also said that for security reasons, during the war with Iran, it didn't seem like Witkoff and Kushner would be able to make the kind of trips they had been making previously to take part in Ukraine negotiations. So I think for the entire Trump administration, for Witkoff and Kushner specifically, the focus right now is on reopening the Strait of Hormuz, getting to some kind of settlement with the Iranians, and it does not seem like there's a whole lot of bandwidth for focusing on Ukraine. Savannah.
All right, Raf, thank you so much. We've got more headlines from around the world this morning. In Nepal, a Turkish Airlines flight was evacuated after catching on fire. NBC News International correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Well, that's right. A Turkish Airlines passenger plane caught fire while landing in Nepal's main airport on Monday morning. Now, the Airbus 330 was carrying 277 passengers from Istanbul to Kathmandu when, upon landing, fire and smoke came out of the landing gear. There are no reported injuries among passengers who were all evacuated safely, but the airport was shut down Monday morning, disrupting air travel. Let's go to Thailand now, where on Monday, former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra was released from prison in Bangkok after serving 8 months of a one-year sentence for corruption. The controversial Shinawatra is a former telecom billionaire who served as prime minister from 2001 to 2006 when he was ousted by a military coup while he was abroad. He was later charged with abuse of power over allegations he used his position to benefit his own business interests. And let's end this tour of the world in Sweden, where something revolutionary is brewing in a Stockholm cafe. While at first glance it looks like a traditional cafe, the manager calling the shots, literally, is an artificial intelligence agent named Mona. But human baristas are not worried they're to be replaced anytime soon, because they say Mona, which is also in charge of inventory, often orders the wrong amount of bread and even ordered canned tomatoes that are not used in any dish in the cafe. So it looks like, Savannah, that it's going to be a while before artificial intelligence replaces this.
Yeah.
A good old analog Italian coffee.
I couldn't agree more, Claudio. An important part of all of our mornings. Thank you so much. Coming up on Morning News Now, cleanup concerns in the aftermath of those massive wildfires in California.
Corners cut.
I would say corners were cut as far as the higher-ups who were giving these directives. I think they were trying to just rush the job.
When we come back, why residents are questioning whether it's safe enough to rebuild and what an NBC News investigation revealed about the efforts. We'll be right back. We're back with a new federal lawsuit against OpenAI. The company is being sued by the family of a victim who was killed in a mass shooting at Florida State University in April of last year that left 2 people dead. The suit alleges that OpenAI's chatbot, ChatGPT, gave the suspect advice on how to carry out the attack. OpenAI denies those allegations, saying it never stops working to improve its safeguards. In a statement, the company told NBC News last year's mass shooting at Florida State University was a tragedy, but ChatGPT is not responsible for this terrible crime. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is here with more on this lawsuit. Danny, good morning. So I should mention the complaint also names the shooting suspect as a defendant as well, but it claims he had extensive conversations, that's the language here, with ChatGPT. How hard is it going to be to prove that a chatbot enabled the attack in this case? Is that what it is that needs to be proved?
Probably the best thing plaintiffs have going for them in these cases is the illusion that AI intends to do anything at all. But in reality, AI intends to do no more than a coffee maker intends that I drink coffee. It's a machine. But the illusion, the way we interact with it, it sure does feel like a co-conspirator. If I put into ChatGPT, tell me how to rob a bank, a personality comes back and says, here's what you need, a balaclava, a weapon, all of these things. And it feels like intent. But this is a machine. It's not a co-conspirator that intends that I rob a bank. But the reality is we're on the frontier of this legal area of the law. So the courts, Congress, legislators have to decide how they're going to treat it. Is it Google Or is it something more than that that may actually synthesize intent?
Oh, there's also a criminal investigation in Florida for this same event here, for ChatGPT's alleged part in the FSU shooting. Does that have any impact?
It might. If there are criminal charges, and it's funny because I have this exact same issue. I'm working on a motion as we speak for this. When you have parallel civil and criminal cases, it's not uncommon for courts to pause the civil case pending the outcome of the criminal case. The most obvious reason is that defendants in a criminal case have a Fifth Amendment privilege. They'll likely not testify. So they don't want to go in and sit for a deposition where they'll be forced to testify and thereby implicate their Fifth Amendment rights. But that's really only if there are criminal charges.
So, Danny, we obviously have this lawsuit. It's part of sort of this growing conversation and a growing list of legal actions taken against these companies for the words, the actions of these AI chatbots. I'm thinking also of families with these tragic stories whose children have been speaking to an AI chatbot when they have been contemplating suicide. What are the possible outcomes here? If it essentially can be proven, right? I think that's one of the interesting things, that a human said this and then the chatbot said that, because there's this log of everything that happens. What are the outcomes here? If you have that information, you take it to the court of law and you ask, is this allowed? How can we stop this?
We will remember this moment in history as the dawn of dealing with AI legally. And right now, we don't know what we're doing. So the most immediate thing you might see in a case like this is really one of three outcomes. The case gets thrown out by a judge who interprets the AI's conspiracy or involvement in this as not effective or a real legal claim. Or the parties might settle. You're going to see a lot of this with these companies. They don't want no trouble. We don't want to go to deposition, so we'll just settle out of court. Everything will be confidential. Or you might see ultimately this case go to trial, or legislation by Congress or state legislators as they try to deal with what AI is. Now that it's here to stay, how do we treat it legally? As a person, as a tool, or something in between?
All right, fascinating. Danny Ceballos, thank you so much. Let's get to that story we teased a moment ago. An NBC News investigation has revealed some concerns about the cleanup efforts from the deadly 2025 California wildfires. Officials called it one of the fastest cleanups in the state's history, but now residents are questioning if it is safe enough to rebuild. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson spoke with two workers directly involved with the cleanup.
In burn-battered Altadena, homes are beginning to rise from the ashes.
When I look at our property, it's still home.
Caroline Chacon plans to rebuild too, but worries about what's been left behind.
It looks like you can still see the fire damage left on the pavement.
Absolutely.
Chacon says that her lot was never properly cleaned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and points to a fire-charred patio, a sinkhole that formed after her lot was cleared, and parts of her home's foundation as proof. She says she'll have to pay for the debris removal herself and worries about toxins potentially leaching from them that could be lingering in the soil.
There's always going to be the concern of what is left behind. At the end of the day, they did not do a good job.
Chacon is one of hundreds of residents who submitted cleanup complaints to an Army Corps hotline, according to documents obtained by NBC News. Many of them critical of the agency for failing to remove the remnants of what's now in plain sight: fire-singed driveways, walls, and foundations.
I've covered nearly every major wildfire in California over the last 10 years, and following a cleanup effort, I have not seen this much concrete debris still intact. It's something workers we spoke to say they find shocking here as well. How atypical is that amount of material left behind compared to what you've seen before?
It's so excessive.
For the first time, we're hearing from two workers directly involved with the cleanup effort, subcontractors who took orders from the Corps, agreeing to speak to us as long as we hid their identities.
We left cracked walls, cracked driveways that had contaminants left in them, or even burnt plastic. Those are all still contaminants that should have not been left behind.
The workers tell us that agency orders about what they could remove changed multiple times.
One property, you're doing one thing, and then they change things, and then it's something totally different.
They say those sudden shifts contributed to an inconsistent and substandard cleanup.
Were corners cut?
I would say corners were cut as far as the higher-ups who were giving these directives. I think they were trying to just rush the job.
Recent data from researchers at UCLA appears to support what the workers and many people there fear. That cleanup was done hastily without quality control, and that lead levels on nearly 20% of cleared lots in Altadena still exceed state safety standards. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers tells us soil testing was not part of the mission assigned by FEMA, and its mission evolved based on what was learned in the field. Adding, the integrity and safety of our fire debris removal operations was the highest priority, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers addressed every reported concern throughout the process. The unknown of what remains still weighs heavily on these workers.
I think it's important that the community knows what they're coming back to. If it's not good enough for my family, it's not good enough for anyone else.
You wouldn't let your family move back to this?
Nope. If I didn't clean this property myself, absolutely not.
Regret for a job that felt unfinished and concern for what might come next. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Altadena, California.
Our thanks to Steve for that such important reporting. Well, coming up on Morning News Now, World Cup controversy. Fans crying foul over skyrocketing ticket prices.
I'm not willing to pay this. That's not what the World Cup should be about.
When we come back, why critics say organizers dropped the ball. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's get you some money headlines. One fast food giant is looking to make its Wall Street debut. NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has our Money Minute. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. That's right. We're talking about Inspire Brands here. That's the parent company of Dunkin', Baskin-Robbins, and Sonic. The company says it's taking steps toward making a stock market debut. According to the company's website, it operates more than 33,000 restaurants with more than $33 billion in sales. Inspire Brands was founded in 2018 when Arby's and Buffalo Wild Wings merged, followed by other chains, including Dunkin' and Jimmy John's. And the price of gold is slipping as investors grapple with growing uncertainty. Tensions in the Middle East remain elevated and inflation concerns are keeping markets on edge. Gold is traditionally seen as a safe haven asset used to protect against inflation and typically doesn't do well when the expectation is that rates could remain high. This move comes as we await tomorrow's Consumer Price Index report, a key reading on U.S. inflation. And Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway owned Mother's Day weekend with The Devil Wears Prada 2 once again claiming the top spot at the box office. The film beat out fellow sequel Mortal Kombat 2 and the murder mystery family film The Sheep Detectives. So far, The Devil Wears Prada 2 has brought in more than $430 million in sales worldwide, already surpassing sales for the original film's complete theatrical run in just its second weekend in theaters. So a lot of millennial nostalgia here.
That's cool. I think it speaks to just like how much of a classic it became, right? Like in its life after theaters.
100%. And there was so much anticipation. I feel like people were just like, it was breadcrumbs of the trailer and just, and I'm getting so many Emily jokes, of course. But the other assistant named Emily.
Wow, love that so much. That's great for them. Thank you, Emily. Well, FIFA's World Cup kicks off next month, and while some American fans are, of course, excited that the massive soccer tournament's getting underway, others say they refuse to pay thousands of dollars to watch Team USA play, an issue many are noticing when they try to snag tickets. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch shows us how some are going for, get this, nearly $1 million.
Just weeks before the U.S. men kick off at the FIFA World Cup in Los Angeles, you can still easily find face value tickets for their home opener. One reason, eye-watering ticket prices topping $1,000 a seat.
Everyone keeps asking me, hey, bro, are you going to go to the World Cup? How are you going to get tickets? I'm not.
The numbers don't make sense.
World Cup is officially for the 1%.
Even President Trump reacting, telling the New York Post, I wouldn't pay it either, to be honest with you.
But I just kind of play.
Carol Lynn and Barack are South Florida superfans. They followed the American men's and women's teams to Brazil, New Zealand, and France.
What is the most you've ever paid for a World Cup ticket?
$130.
But with the chance to cheer on the red, white, and blue at home,
It's a bigger challenge to be on our backyard than going across the other side of the world.
And I'd rather save my money and go to Morocco next World Cup.
soccer fans stunned worldwide. Look at these other early tournament prices. Spain, Cabo Verde, France, Senegal, USA, Australia.
If you think those opening round prices sound steep, take a look at the World Cup final resale market. Around $10,000 just to get in the door, with some tickets going for almost $1 million.
Fans also frustrated by FIFA's rollout, releasing tickets in waves, accused of deceiving buyers.
When fans went into the portal to buy tickets, FIFA had maps. When they actually received their seat assignments, some fans were in the corners or behind the goals or further back from the rows that they thought they were purchasing.
FIFA says its ticketing model reflects the American marketplace. But facing pressure, soccer's governing body released a small number of $60 tickets for each match. Carol Lynn and Barack say they scored some tickets that way, but they'll watch the rest of the tournament on TV.
I'm not willing to pay this. That's not what the World Cup should be about.
Jesse Kirsch, NBC News, Hollandale Beach, Florida.
All right, from the pitch to the court, we're jumping right into the new season of the WNBA that tipped off over the weekend. All 15 teams have started their hunt for a championship as the league celebrates its 30th season this summer. So this morning, we've got you covered with everything you need to know about this latest season. For more on this, let's bring in sports writer and host of the Sportly podcast, Kavitha Davidson. Kavitha, good morning. Always great to have you with us. So it's actually been an eventful offseason. There was this new collective bargaining agreement, also an expansion draft. Walk us through some of the biggest headlines this year.
Yeah, so the biggest question heading into the season is whether we would have one, because the collective bargaining agreement was up for renegotiation, and thankfully the union and the league came to terms. Salaries are up significantly. The league minimum is $270,000. The supermax is around $1.4 million. So we made millionaires out of a lot of these very deserving women. And as you said, we had an expansion draft with two new teams, the Toronto Tempo and the Portland Fire. So the growth that we're seeing in this league is incredibly encouraging.
Kavitha, the Las Vegas Aces, they're coming into the season as early favorites to reclaim the throne as champions, so maybe not a surprise there. But what are the chances they go back-to-back? Who could challenge them?
Yeah, I mean, we're like all eyes are just on Vegas right now. They are the defending champs. They have the best player in the league, possibly by the time she retires, the best player in history. They're going for their fourth championship in the last 5 years, which would probably solidify them as the greatest dynasty we've ever seen in the league. But I think everyone's got to be looking at the New York Liberty, who won a championship 2 years ago. They're looking to bounce back from last season, where they were just absolutely ravaged by injuries. They have their core of Brianna Stewart and Jonquil Jones healthy. Sabrina Ionescu is out for the first 2 weeks of the season, and they added Satu Sabali in the offseason, which is a huge addition, gives them so much depth. So I think that the Liberty are the other team to watch aside from Vegas.
Let's talk about players to watch. Who do you see taking home the MVP title at the end of the year? I know it's very early to be asking that question, but what do you think?
It is a little early to be asking that question. Again, all eyes are just on Vegas. A'ja Wilson, like I said, is building her case as possibly the greatest WNBA player of all time. She's the only player who has had 4 MVPs. She's only 29 years old. She's in her prime, and it feels like we've had her around forever. So A'ja is obviously the player that everyone is chasing. And then we're gonna go back to New York again. Brianna Stewart, she's a 2-time MVP. She's finally healthy this year. And the way that she played in this offseason for the Unrivaled League and in WNBA preseason, she's playing some of the best basketball we've ever seen from her. And she started the season off strong with 31 points and 10 rebounds in the opening night win against Connecticut.
And everybody loves Caitlin Clark.
Everyone does love Caitlin Clark. I'm excited to see how Caitlin and Paige Beckers continue to establish themselves in the league. And Clark, especially if the Fever can shore up their defense and make a deep run, we can see some great impact from her.
So the WNBA is coming off this 2025 season. It was just incredible for the league. New records in viewership, in attendance. Now that there are more teams in the league, how do you see just sort of the level of competition stacking up against years past, matched with that increased attention?
Yeah, so this has been a talking point, and this is the reason that we continue to have expansion and will continue for the next few years, is that there's just so much talent coming out of college, and there haven't been enough teams. So now we have larger rosters. We have more players that we can see. We've also got some markers in the CBA that allow other players to be signed. So it's a great thing to see with a young league as this. And there are just a lot of players that we can be looking for aside from the big 3 that we kind of just mentioned.
Kavitha Davidson, thank you so much. Exciting stuff. We'll be talking to you a bunch. Well, coming up, one last dance for a high school teacher set to retire at the end of the school year. How he and his students are making his last prom as chaperone extra special. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. We end this hour with a heartwarming promposal for a retiring teacher in Indiana. For his last year as a chaperone for the dance, he wanted to bring along a special date. Reporter Joshua Short from our South Bend affiliate shows us this sweet moment.
So remember when the K's are silent on new and not, written and rapper, the W's are silent.
Mr. Rich has had quite the teaching career.
You hear the hi, H-I, but you have a G-H on the end of it.
Rich with impact and memories.
For 15 years I've been with the corporation. There has not been a day where I had to get up and come to work that I didn't want to get up and come to work. Now, I can't say that about the previous 35 years or so.
Here at South Bend Adams High School, it's almost the end of the school year, and it'll be the final bell for a longtime Adams Eagle.
He helps us with our work, and he was always there for us, and I'm really going to miss him.
Mr. Rich will be retiring soon, but instead of a retirement party, he and his co-workers with the Life Skills program at the school, they plotted a month-long plan, a promposal.
You want to hold the rose? No. Oh, you're going to hide the rose?
It took Mr. Rich nearly 4 decades to work up the nerve to ask his wife one question.
Would you like to go to the prom with me, Kathleen?
Oh my gosh, I gotta tell you, this never happened before. Wow. Oh, there you go. Hold it up, Garrett.
His wife, Kathleen, had no clue. This came after years of going to the prom as a chaperone for his students.
Last year, my wife said, gee, I'd like to go with you sometime. I thought, well, okay, maybe next year. So we decided she was going to come to the prom as my date.
She said yes, and his students are saying yes, too. Are you excited to see Mr. Rich at prom?
Oh, yes.
Did you hear what happened? He asked his wife.
Oh, yes.
You heard about that?
Yes.
Are you excited?
Oh, yes.
What are you going to miss most about this place?
Well, obviously the children, the students, and the personalities I'm going to miss, and the staff.
And even though Mr. Rich's teaching chapter is ending,
Got me crying.
he's still proving it's never too late to ask.
And we love you, Mr. Rich. We're really going to miss you.
Oh, thanks to Joshua Short for sharing that story, and to Mr. Rich for his years of hard work. He and his wife will attend that last official prom together this Friday. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but do not go anywhere. The news continues right now. Good Monday morning. Thanks for starting your week with me. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe's off today, so it's just me today right now on Morning News Now. Totally unacceptable pushback from President Trump over Iran's counter proposal for peace in the Middle East. But Iran's foreign ministry just this morning insisting the offer is legitimate and generous, all while the stalemate over the Strait of Hormuz has gas prices back home up by a quarter for the second straight week. More on that costly standoff as many Americans feel the pinch at the pump with no end in sight. Homeward bound, more than a dozen Americans at the center of that deadly hantavirus outbreak at sea back on U.S. soil this morning. But U.S. officials say one American has tested positive and another showing mild symptoms, while a French woman is sick in the hospital. So what are the chances even more people could be affected? We will chat with one of our medical experts in just a moment. Also this morning, Freedom Face-Off, the budding controversy surrounding the White House's UFC showdown next month over who exactly has a shot at tickets as supporters scramble for a chance to celebrate America's 250th birthday right on the South Lawn. Plus, heart and soul. Later in the hour, we're going one-on-one with the first woman to make ultra-marathon history, conquering a 250-mile trek through the Arizona desert, all in record time. Doesn't that sound just actually impossible to you, or is that just me? Good morning. Thanks again for being with us. We are going to begin this hour with fresh uncertainty in the standoff over a peace deal to end the war with Iran and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That's after President Trump rejected Tehran's counter-proposal to America's proposal on Sunday, just hours after it was received. The president calling it, quote, totally unacceptable. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry responded by saying his country's plan was, quote, generous and responsible. The impasse with Iran is sending oil prices back up this morning and threatening more upward pressure on gas prices at the pumps. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons has the latest for us from Doha, Qatar. Keir, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. Yeah, it's one of those mornings where negotiations appear to be going backwards, putting that upward pressure on oil prices. Iranian state media saying that Iran's demands of President Trump include something that will not be appreciated here in the Gulf, and that is Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump rejecting Iran's latest counter-proposal passed on by Pakistan, writing, "I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives," and adding, "I don't like it. Totally unacceptable." While this morning, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman insisting their position is legitimate, generous and responsible. In an interview broadcast Sunday, Trump complaining Iran's new leadership are hard to negotiate with.
They make a deal and then they break it, then they make a deal, they break it. It's a difficult group.
Iran's supreme leader is injured from a strike that killed his father, a senior Iranian official has confirmed, to the head, back and knee. But he insisted he is in full health and able to conduct meetings. This morning, Iran says its demands include the US lifting its blockade and releasing Iranian frozen assets. While Israel's prime minister, asked by 60 Minutes whether the war is over, saying there needs to be a deal over Iran's nuclear program.
I think it accomplished a great deal, but it's not over because there's still nuclear material, enriched uranium, that has to be taken out of Iran.
An unrelenting standoff, the Strait of Hormuz still almost at a standstill, as gas prices continue to soar, reaching $4.52 a gallon on average in the US today. On Meet the Press, Energy Secretary Chris Wright not ruling out the possibility of that rising to $5 a gallon.
Well, I'm just avoiding price predictions. But I will say the United States is in a tremendous position. We're by far the world's largest producer of oil.
The situation here in the Gulf, Savannah, we saw more Iranian drone strikes over the weekend, including on a cargo ship off of Qatar here, even while leaders from here were meeting with the Trump administration in the US. At the same time, it looks like Qatari tankers, at least some, are managing to get through the Strait of Hormuz. It is just quite simply a volatile situation, Savannah.
All right, Keir, thank you so much. While as President Trump navigates an end to the war in Iran, he's also preparing to travel to Beijing today for a high-stakes visit with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us with more. Ryan, good morning. So on a call over the weekend, senior White House officials said this visit will focus on rebalancing the relationship with China and restoring American economic independence. What are lawmakers saying kind of about who has the upper hand going into this summit?
Well, there's no doubt, Savannah, that the president has high hopes for this visit to China. But the situation in the Middle East is kind of hanging over all of these talks. The critical Strait of Hormuz is something that matters to the entire world, but it particularly matters to large swaths of Asia, and that includes China. And China has been pushing to find some pathway to get the Strait of Hormuz open. And it's also unclear just what type of relationship the Chinese have with the Iranians and the role that China could potentially play in bringing this conflict to an end. You'll remember that the president's trip to China was actually delayed at one point because of the ongoing conflict in Iran. And part of the reason that the ongoing ceasefire has remained in place is because that the president does not want it to overshadow this visit to China. So there are a lot of different geopolitical issues that are at play in what is really going to be a high-stakes visit for the president and for the leaders of China, Savannah.
Brian, tell us more about the different priorities going into this right here for both sides as they try to make deals on things like trade and security.
Well, one of the biggest issues that the two sides are expected to talk about is fentanyl and the drug trade, and the fact that China is one of the biggest producers of fentanyl, that fentanyl is brought into the United States illegally and then is sold on the streets, primarily derived from China. And President Trump has been insistent that the Chinese do more to try and rein in the flow of illegal drugs from China into the United States. And China has been somewhat receptive to that. They announced this week an arrest related to Chinese smuggling. So that's one of the big issues that they plan to talk about. But there's also the issue of Taiwan and how that impacts the safety and security of many American allies in the Far East, including Japan and Korea and others. There are American lawmakers this morning that are pushing for the United States to continue their arms sales to Taiwan. In general, the United States has been friendly with Taiwan, something that the Chinese are not happy with. So it will be unclear just exactly what type of message President Trump will send to the leaders of China as it relates to Taiwan.
Ryan, before I let you go, I do want to ask also about these gas prices that Keir just mentioned. It's something that's on, of course, a lot of our minds. Now, when floating the possibility of suspending the federal gas tax, that's something that's come up. The Energy Secretary said everything has trade-offs, but there's also been this discussion of everything being on the table. What are the potential trade-offs here, Ryan, of pausing that tax, and how much would that help Americans when it really comes to those prices?
Well, it would certainly save a bottom line money for most Americans. It could be anywhere between 18 and 25 cents a gallon, depending on where you are and depending on what type of gas you're putting into your car, whether it be regular gas or diesel gasoline. But there's a reason that the gas tax is in place, and that's because it is the main driver of funding for roads and bridges all across the United States. And so if you were to take that gas tax away, if you were to reduce that gas tax on any level, that would stop the flow of funding into the Highway Transportation Fund, which makes sure that roads are safe, that fills potholes during a busy summer travel season. So it's not as if you just let that gas tax go away, that there would be no consequences to it. So while it does appear to be something the administration is at least exploring, there would have to be some role that Congress would play in all of this, and it would not come without any consequences, Savannah.
All right, Brian Noble's covering a lot for us. Thank you so much. Let's get to another big story we're covering this morning. The 17 Americans who were aboard the luxury cruise ship at the center of that deadly hantavirus outbreak are now back in the United States. And officials say one has tested positive for the virus, another is showing symptoms. This video you're seeing shows buses carrying passengers from the ship arriving at the University of Nebraska Medical Center earlier this morning. Now, separately, a French woman has also tested positive. She is in the hospital where officials in France say her condition worsened overnight. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal is in Omaha outside that medical facility. She joins us with the latest. Camila, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. So that plane landed at around 1:30 a.m. local time, and a team of highly trained doctors, nurses, and staff were all here and ready to receive these passengers. All of the doctors and staff volunteers. There were 3 buses that transferred the people to the facility here behind me. The person that tested positive was sent to the biocontainment unit, and this morning we now wait for the results of their assessment. This morning, Americans from that cruise ship landing in the United States, including one who U.S. officials say has tested positive for hantavirus. Loaded on buses traveling to the facility where they'll be examined. According to the health department, one passenger currently has mild symptoms, and another passenger tested mildly PCR positive for the Andes strain of the virus. The person who tested positive is expected at the Nebraska Biocontainment Unit in Omaha. The other with mild symptoms will be going to another specialized facility. Both will undergo clinical assessment and receive appropriate care and support based on their condition. The passengers spent weeks aboard this cruise ship where multiple people contracted hantavirus, and 3 deaths have been linked to the outbreak, according to officials. After disembarking the ship on Sunday, a private plane carrying those 17 Americans landing at Epley Airfield in Nebraska early this morning.
We do daily symptom and monitoring as well as vital sign checks.
The hospital's biocontainment unit is specifically designed to treat those with highly hazardous and infectious diseases. Here, even contact with medical staff is limited. Those with no symptoms will be held inside the quarantine unit in Nebraska. Each person will have their own room, equipped with special ventilation systems, private bathrooms, exercise equipment, and Wi-Fi. Meals will be delivered, and contact is limited to phone and video calls. While the CDC says it can take up to 6 weeks for hantavirus symptoms to appear, health officials have not said if the passengers will be required to stay for any period of time. In 2014, the same Nebraska facility was used to treat Americans who had contracted Ebola. And in 2020, it was activated again for some of the first COVID patients. This morning, medical teams are gearing up to prevent an outbreak. And it's not clear if or how long these passengers will be asked to stay here, or if they will just be asked to self-monitor. We are waiting for a press conference later this morning, and we hope to get clarity on that one positive case and on next steps for all of those passengers that are not showing any symptoms. Savannah?
All right, Camila Bernal, thank you. And we'll be bringing you that press conference live right here on News Now. For more, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, because I've got a lot of questions for you. Obviously, a lot has happened in the past 24 hours. Just help us first understand how serious these new developments are. Let's start on the Americans who officials say one has tested positive, the other showing symptoms. How serious does that sound to you for them as patients, but also as new developments as we watch this outbreak unfold?
It's both incredibly serious, but really for the patients and the people that we isolated, these 17 Americans, as well as all the other global citizens that around the world are trying to kind of sort out what happened if they were on the ship or in very close contact with people on the ship or on any of those planes, Savannah. So let me just put this into context. We have this one individual who's showing symptoms. Once someone shows symptoms and as they progress, we know this carries a high mortality rate, up to as high as 30 to 50% of people that start developing and progressing from mild symptoms to more serious symptoms can face a mortality rate. So that in itself is serious. I think the other thing is the context of this for the rest of us is reassuring, because we are not seeing anything wildly unpredictable about the way that this virus is transmitting. And let me interpret it another way. We are not seeing positive cases that have not had direct kind of contact or some sort of exposure to other symptomatic individuals, meaning the virus is behaving the way we would expect it to behave. That doesn't mean it's not concerning, that it's not serious, but it is certainly something that we are kind of predictable. And that's exactly why those people were taken to Nebraska. And I can't think of a better place for them to be monitored. If I were one of their loved ones, I would be thankful that they're there. I know it's frustrating, I'm sure, but this is the right place for them to be.
Dr. Patel, I think also just in terms of what you said about it's behaving the way that we would expect, is what you mean by that essentially, like, we are really only seeing so far people who are actually on the cruise ship. Like, even a flight attendant who had contact with a woman who later died from this was testing ultimately negative while she was being monitored. That we're just seeing people who are actually on that ship and therefore in closer contact, not spreading beyond that at this point.
At this point, right. I wouldn't be surprised if there were individuals who had left the ship and had not been isolated and have a positive case. Their household, remember, it's really about the point of transmission. So that would not surprise me, which is why it was really important for any of these cases, even the people that disembarked earlier, to be monitored and to kind of be followed through. There is this kind of mildly positive case. There's a positive case with no symptoms. Savannah, as you mentioned, I just want to touch on that for a second, because I think it's confusing everyone. What does it mean to be, quote, mildly positive? I thought you're positive or you're not. While that is true, this is a PCR test. We all remember PCR tests from COVID. What's different about COVID and now is that we're still trying to understand kind of the utility of a PCR test when there's no symptoms. So we have someone with symptoms, one American. We have another American that's showing a positive potential test, but not symptomatic. I would treat that individual as if they're a working positive and isolate them, which is what's happening while they're retesting. There's a negative test supposedly as well. They will need to just evaluate what exactly is happening and isolate that person. And then again, unfortunately, we don't really have anything we can offer anybody that shows symptoms other than supportive care. There's an antiviral treatment, but it's not a treatment per se, but it's something, it's not a cure. So we do need to monitor anything closely. And I would say that a positive, even a mild positive PCR should be treated as a potential early infection with very low virus count before it's considered a false positive.
Dr. Patel, quickly on this one, we woke up overnight. It was pretty big news to essentially hear of potentially 3 new cases, that one positive, the symptomatic, and then the woman in France. Do you anticipate we could hear more from people who were on this ship? And does that really cause you a lot of alarm, or is it something you think may happen?
No, I do think it'll happen. That's why I do want to brace people. Now, this is kind of an emerging, like, literal hotspot. So I do think that we will see more cases. I hope that they can be isolated as quickly as possible and as supported as quickly as possible. That's the key with hantavirus. So I would not be surprised if there are more cases.
Dr. Patel, one of the things that's difficult about this virus and that has made what we've seen so far difficult for authorities to manage is how long this virus can incubate, even up to 6 weeks before you could be testing positive or you could show any symptoms. What happens to these other Americans? So there are two, right? One with that positive test being quarantined, one with the symptoms being quarantined. But for people who are worried, okay, so there were 15 others. Are they going to be able to just head home? Are they going to be out in my community and then maybe in a few weeks develop symptoms? What happens and what should happen?
I think that what should happen is these individuals need to be closely observed. It's terrible to do this, but we have that Nebraska facility for a reason, and they do have the ability to have like life day to day there, and even some of the freedoms of just being able to talk to medical personnel, I think is an incredible asset to have in the United States. So I think that they should stay quarantined until we know that it is very safe. And again, I'm saying this as if I were one of them, and they should feel that way just so that they can protect individuals around them. I am sure it is a day-to-day living hell for them, not in terms of conditions, but just in terms of what's happening to them mentally. But I'm very hopeful that this can be something that we can resolve so that they stay safe. And by staying safe, keep the rest of the public around them, as well as any of the individuals in their close contact. Remember, just to put that onto context, Savannah, this is not something that I'm worried about any of those 17 individuals casually passing me by in a grocery store and potentially making me sick. It really is about their very close contacts and about people they spend time with. It's about their loved ones. So I would expect we hear something at the press briefing about those 17 individuals remaining quarantined for the time being, with those two potentially isolated in different ways.
All right, Dr. Patel, really good information there, including a reminder how difficult this must be for anybody who's been on that ship to be in this waiting period. Thank you so much. Always great to see you.
Thanks.
Well, now let's get to that fatal incident on the tarmac at Denver International Airport over the weekend. Investigators are still looking into how a person snuck onto their runway as a Frontier Airlines plane was taking off. It comes as NBC News has obtained new surveillance footage showing the shocking collision, and we do want to warn you that it is disturbing. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz joins us from Denver with this. Liz, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning to you. Yeah, officials say that this person deliberately scaled a perimeter fence around the airport before walking onto the runway. They haven't been identified, but the airport does not believe this was someone who was an employee of the airport. It's certainly prompting a lot of questions, most notably, how does something like this happen?
After these terrifying moments on the tarmac at Denver International,
we just hit somebody. We have an engine fire.
This morning, investigators are looking to determine what led to this fatal incident. Newly obtained surveillance video shows a trespasser entering an active runway just moments before getting hit by a Frontier plane taking off for Los Angeles Friday night.
There does appear to be human remains on the runway.
224 passengers and 7 crew members were forced to evacuate after the airline reported smoke in the cabin, seen here sliding down onto the runway.
I need you all to move away from the aircraft.
Denver International says the person jumped the perimeter fence 2 minutes before getting hit. The airport now saying they're working to perform an incident analysis, which will include reviewing the perimeter security program.
This barbed wire fence surrounds the perimeter of the airport, but it's the size of the airport. Denver International is twice as big as the island of Manhattan. That makes monitoring every inch of it so challenging.
It is a huge field, if you will, with multiple runways and miles of security perimeter fencing.
Former TSA Administrator John Pistol says it will fall on multiple agencies, including the TSA, FAA, and NTSB, to determine what gaps in security allowed for the breach.
Denver's done an excellent job over the years, but in this case, obviously, something didn't work.
Also under scrutiny, the evacuation. Some on board describe having to wait several minutes in the smoky cabin after impact. Videos also show some passengers taking their luggage off the plane, a blatant violation of FAA regulations.
We were telling them, let us out, let us out, let us out. They were trying to calm us down.
This morning, the airport says they're continuing to gather information about the incident, adding this was a horrible and preventable tragedy that has affected many.
Now, Savannah, officials say 5 people who are on that plane were taken to the hospital. We know that 4 of those people have been released. We haven't gotten an update on that 5th person. As for the trespasser, we still don't know who they are, where exactly on the property they were able to breach the security fence, and why they did this. Savannah.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you so much. Well, now it's time for your morning news now. Weather, let's check in with meteorologist Andrea Romero. She's checking the latest springtime forecast. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. And we're going to start off with the heat. We're talking about heat that's widespread. It's dangerous. It's breaking records across parts of California, into Arizona, maybe even to Colorado the next couple of days. So we do have over 11 million people that are under these heat alerts. Stretching from California into Arizona, especially here in areas of Phoenix. We're talking about triple-digit heat that will continue not only today, but throughout the next couple of days. So this is the potential for records all the way from the Pacific Northwest, stretching into Colorado, maybe even to parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Record high temperatures will continue in these areas. We can see that the heat will be prolonged with those triple-digit temperatures. Today, for instance, in Phoenix, we're talking about a high of perhaps 108, 109 degrees. Now we shift gears. We also are tracking some storms that are moving through the southeast. We had all that severe weather over the weekend. That's due to that system, that frontal system that will continue to move on eastward, bringing some locally heavy rain along the Gulf Coast. Few strong storms are possible from Miami, Florida, all the way up into Wilmington, North Carolina. And by tomorrow, the front will be moving south across the Florida Peninsula with urban flooding possible in parts of southeast Florida. The rainfall forecast is calling for 1 to 3 inches, so the risk of flooding will be around, especially for parts of maybe New Orleans, Miami, and more rounds of rain are expected in parts of the Great Lakes. And low pressure moves across the western Great Lakes, rains and storms into western New York State, into Missouri as well. That will be for tomorrow and into Wednesday. That will be moving into the northeast with a few strong storms that will be also occurring along the interior of the mid-Atlantic as that other front moves across that area. We do have frost and freeze alerts this morning that will continue through tomorrow. 22 million people are being impacted with that May chill that is keeping those temperatures quite low this morning in some cities. We have 37 degrees, parts of Bradford, 39 degrees over there in Saranac Lake. And this cold air in the northeast will begin to moderate as that warm air from the west continues to move on eastward, and we're expecting pleasant temperatures perhaps for the end of this week in parts of the northeast. So it'll be a change. From
pleasant temperatures over the weekend?
Yeah, over the weekend we're looking at maybe 80s.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what a treat. Lucky girls we are. All right,
Yes, we
Andrea,
are.
thank you so much. More to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the UFC showdown taking center stage right outside of the White House ahead of America's 250th birthday celebration in D.C. The battle over who gets to be on the guest list. First, though, after the break, fresh legal trouble for OpenAI, why the family of one mass shooting victim is now suing the tech titan over ChatGPT's alleged role in last year's tragedy on the campus of Florida State University. That's next. We're back now with a new federal lawsuit against OpenAI. The company is being sued by the family of a victim killed in last year's mass shooting at Florida State University. The family alleges that OpenAI's ChatGPT helped the suspect plan his attack. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett joins us now with the details. Laura, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. The lawsuit claims that the suspect carried out the shooting using explicit instructions and advice, all provided by ChatGPT, despite concerning questions that the complaint says should have raised alarms to OpenAI. And it's part of a growing number of cases now arguing that this type of technology is dangerously defective.
The suit, one of the first of its kind, accusing ChatGPT of helping 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, then a student at Florida State University, carry out a mass shooting at the school last spring that killed 2 people.
In this case, ChatGPT became a co-conspirator and, if not collaborator, with the shooter.
The complaint detailing several of Eichner's alleged exchanges with an AI-powered chatbot, including instructions for how to use the weapons he'd obtained. Just hours before the shooting, Eichner asking how many victims it would take for a shooting at a school to receive media attention. The bot responding, 3 or more people killed, excluding the shooter, is often the unofficial bar for widespread national media attention. Eichner then following up with, if there was a shooting at FSU, how would the country react? But ChatGPT did not flag or escalate the conversation, according to the complaint filed Sunday by attorneys for Vandana Joshi, the widow of Tiru Chhabba, a father of 2 who was killed in the shooting. Instead, her attorneys say the chatbot egged him on.
This new technology is not like Google, where you simply put in a query and it gives you back an answer. It becomes collaborative. They ask follow-up questions.
OpenAI telling NBC News in a statement, last year's mass shooting at Florida State University was a tragedy, but ChatGPT is not responsible for this terrible crime, adding it provided factual responses to questions with information that could be found broadly across public sources on the internet. The new suit comes as OpenAI faces increasing scrutiny over its safeguards for chatbots, when some users may be in a mental health crisis. And Florida's Attorney General announced last month his office has opened a criminal investigation into ChatGPT's role in the FSU shooting.
If it was a person on the other end of that screen, we would be charging them with murder.
Now, this new lawsuit is not only against OpenAI, but the shooter himself. Phoenix Eichner is set to go to trial this October on murder charges. He has pleaded not guilty to those charges. We've reached out to his attorneys about this new lawsuit, Savannah, but have not yet heard back.
All right, certainly something to watch. Laura, thank you so much. Yeah. Coming up, a freedom face-off taking center stage outside of the White House. The budding controversy swirling around that South Lawn UFC showdown and who exactly gets to be on the fight night guest list. We'll tell you what all that means up next. Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with President Trump considering firing another senior official. Let's bring in NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz for more on that story and other headlines out of Washington. Hey, Megan, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, let's start at the FDA, where President Trump is considering firing Commissioner Marty McCary. That's according to a source familiar with the matter, who says Trump hasn't made a final decision and could always change his mind. President Trump responded to reports on Friday saying, quote, "I know nothing about it." Now, McCary was confirmed to his post in March of last year, and his tenure has seen unexpected drug rejections as well as staff leaving. Let's go next to former FBI Director James Comey, who has been charged with threatening President Trump's life with that Instagram picture of seashells saying 8647. Now a trial date has been set in that case. Comey will be arraigned and enter a plea on June 30th at a federal court in North Carolina. Then the trial is set to get started at about 2 weeks later on July 15th. Now, Comey has maintained his innocence, and his team has indicated that they're going to pursue motions like arguing that this is a selective and vindictive prosecution. Finally, let's go to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who's facing some backlash after filming a reality TV show with his family. A 5-part reality series called The Great American Road Trip follows the secretary, his wife, Rachel Campos Duffy, and their 9 kids as they travel across the country. The series was made in celebration of America's 250th anniversary, but some critics are blasting the series as out of touch as Americans are grappling with soaring gas prices. Duffy and his wife have their roots in reality TV. Duffy was on MTV's The Real World, and the couple actually met on the reality game show Road Rules All-Stars. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Savannah?
All right, Megan, thank you so much. Let's stay in Washington. This is an interesting one. President Trump is getting ready to host the first ever UFC fight on the White House South Lawn next month as part of the celebrations of America's 250th birthday. But another fight is shaping up over who is going to get a ticket, who gets a ringside seat. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen has new reporting out on this, and he joins us now. John, good morning. All right, let's just back up and start with this event for people who have not heard about this yet. We know the president's a big UFC fan. He's calling this the hottest ticket. What is this going to be that's happening on the lawn?
First, Savannah, let me congratulate your producers on putting Sean Duffy and the reality TV series
back to back
story
Good
right
stacking,
back to
right?
back.
Yep.
Yeah, well done, well done. What we know about the UFC fight is this is a combination for President Trump of his birthday and America's 250th birthday. He wanted a big extravaganza on the south lawn of the White House. That's what's going to happen. Roughly 4,000 tickets on the south lawn. You've got an octagon and the accessories around it for the staging for the theater being built in Pennsylvania, in central Pennsylvania, being shipped to the White House. It'll take about a month to build that stage on the White House lawn. And this is an expensive thing. The UFC's parent company expects to lose about $30 million on it. At the same time, there are huge sponsorships going out. And as we report this morning, if you're willing to sponsor, become a sponsor of this event, you may get tickets. President Trump's going to handpick a lot of those 4,000 people.
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about who these people may be. You point out in your reporting, which I think is smart, is there's quite a bit of overlap between MAGA and MMA. Who does that mean wants to attend this event, and how's it playing out, especially if it comes with hand-picking from the president?
Yeah, I'll try to separate out that alphabet soup there a little bit, but a lot of the president's fans are mixed martial arts fans. A lot of the people in the MAGA movement. This is one of the reasons, you see him attending those events and bringing some of his cabinet secretaries with him. I believe we've seen Marco Rubio next to him at UFC matches. We've seen Kash Patel, I believe, as well. So what he's going to do is basically pick out members of Congress, foreign dignitaries, donors, friends of Donald Trump, and give them these great lawn seats. There will be a public viewing on the Ellipse, which is just south of the White House lawn, on huge screens. The UFC thinks that there are going to be 85,000 people there. We'll see. 85,000 is a lot of people to get out on a June evening, but that's the plan there.
John, you also point out that more than just this one event or this fight night, that it's sort of there's something to be said about the way that the president uses an event like this in a way to energize his supporters, but also that has this sort of guarded access, who gets invited, hot ticket type of thing, and what that does for people who are donors in addition to just supporters. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I talked to Dana White, the UFC head at the White House Correspondents' Dinner a couple weeks ago. Said it's crazy, it's insane. People keep asking him for tickets, and he's given most of his to the president. I think he's retained 200 tickets himself, Dana White. But this is an access event. This is something the president has done his best to drive up demand for, and as a result, of the limited supply of tickets, he's getting a lot of entreaties, and his staff is getting a lot of entreaties from people with a vested interest before the government, and some people who are just friends, to try to get those elite passes to sit on the South Lawn for the first ever UFC fight there.
John, thank you so much. Really interesting stuff.
Take care, Savannah.
Coming up, is it the real deal or just another downtown dupe? When we come back, the rise of super fake counterfeit bags popping up all over social media. They seem almost too good to be true, but they can save buyers thousands of dollars. You might want to think twice, though, before making that street side purchase. That is up next on Morning News Now. Back now with a new NBC News series, Business in America, where we're going to talk to the leaders of some of the best-known companies. This morning, we have a rare look into the mind of one of the biggest brand executives in the world. Today's show host, Craig Melvin, made a trip out to Beaverton, Oregon, to speak with Nike CEO Elliott Hill. Craig joins us with more on that wide-ranging conversation. Craig, good morning.
Hey there. Elliott Hill is the rare chief executive who came up through the ranks of the same company he now leads. After more than 30 years at Nike, Hill was lured out of retirement to help the iconic sports giant recapture its former glory. His motto, win now. From podiums to playgrounds, Nike is one of the most recognized brands on the planet.
Just like you at the U.S. Open. Very good, Serena Williams.
An athletic empire worth more than $60 billion. Its signature swoosh, a universal symbol of sport, style, and ambition.
It's critically important that when we come to the office every day, we come with an athlete mindset and we're here to serve them.
Elliott Hill spent 32 years at Nike before retiring in 2020. Since then, the storied brand began to lose ground to competitors. Rivals like Adidas finding favor in fashion circles. Upstarts like Hoka and on running, innovating on the athletic scene.
Craig, how are you?
Good to see you. Hill was brought back as CEO in October 2024 to help right the ship at Nike. See some of the magic. And shareholders are watching closely as Nike stock has dropped in recent months. In a show of support, Hill personally bought more than $1 million of stock. What's happening at Nike?
I think it's a reflection on where we are in this moment in time. We're in a cleanup mode and we're a reset mode. We're setting this business up for the next 40 years.
How could a company like Nike, I mean, one of America's greatest brands, how could it seem to have lost its way?
You know, I think there was a couple strategic shifts that happened that COVID didn't help. Where we make mistakes is when we forget that who we're serving. We're serving consumers, we're serving athletes.
How has the business changed?
The consumer's certainly more connected today, digitally. Trends seem to be moving a little faster to me than they did in the past. But the core of what we do does not change. This is called the Walk of Fame.
Hill has reorganized Nike into groups focusing on specific sports like baseball and soccer. There's also a renewed focus on innovation with its state-of-the-art sports research lab.
New innovation called the AeroFit.
It's clear that they're betting big on this summer's World Cup, co-hosted here in the U.S. How many teams do you guys sponsor?
We have 12 teams.
The changes have brought some difficult trade-offs, including layoffs and a shift in pricing. How do you square the fewer sales with the affordability crisis that a lot of Americans are facing right now?
In terms of affordability, it's something we watch all the time. And we've been really cautious and thoughtful about when and how we take price increases for our consumer.
You said recently that tariffs are going to cost Nike about $1.5 billion this fiscal year. Where does that money come from?
Well, you know, it went straight to the government, and we're now in the process of following the guidelines that the government shared, and we're waiting to see what happens in terms of return.
But the $1.5 billion, was that, did it have to
straight off the bottom line? And, you know, we tried to cover some of that with price increases and some other things that we did with our partners on the wholesale side of the business, and then also from manufacturing. But it's tough to cover that all at one time.
So some of it did have to get passed down to the consumer.
Small. But we were thoughtful about it. If you look at it, back to school, we didn't take any price increases because we wanted to make certain that we were thoughtful about the timing of those increases.
Here at Nike, Hill is part chief executive, part pitchman.
Everybody good?
So are they, and part cheerleader for the workforce of 78,000 employees. I read that when you started, you actually gave out your personal email address.
Yeah.
To all the employees.
It was crazy how many emails I received and text messages. It was humbling, and I responded to every single one of them.
You're getting choked up talking about this place.
Well, it's you know, it's not a job. It's personal.
Yeah, I get that sense from you.
Yeah.
Is that why you came out of retirement, to turn it around?
It's a place I care deeply about.
What sparks inspiration for you?
Human performance, athletes that somehow find a way to find another gear when it's needed inspires me like no other. To watch an athlete who already is great to find another level, that's what inspires me, human potential.
All right, thanks to Craig Melvin for that interview. So interesting to hear about a brand you know so well, right? Well, you can watch the full sit-down interview with an NBC News subscription. Become a subscriber here and you're going to get these extended interviews. You're also going to get exclusive content, fewer ads. We're going to be putting all these Business in America interviews there, and we've got a lot of cool ones to come. Scan that QR code that you see on your screen right now to download the NBC News app, and then you can subscribe. We've got more money news. Nintendo stock is seeing Mario red this morning, all thanks to rising chip costs. NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has our Money Minute. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Savannah. So last week we reported on Nintendo raising the price of its latest gaming console, the Switch 2, from about $450 to $500. Well, now we're seeing some reaction to that and the company's earnings report. Shares of Nintendo are falling after it revealed that more expensive parts, including memory chips, along with the impact of tariffs, are expected to cut into the company's bottom line. There are challenges that are not unique to the company, with rivals also feeling the pinch. And according to the California Attorney General's office, General Motors will pay $12.75 million to settle a civil case alleging that GM shared drivers' personal information without permission. The AG says in addition to the funds as part of the settlement that hasn't yet been approved, the automaker will not be allowed to sell driving history details to other companies. We've reached out to GM and haven't yet heard back. And after the shutdown of Spirit Airlines, Papa John's is swooping on in, giving out free pies while also maybe grabbing some customers in the process. The pizza chain is rolling out Skies to Pies, giving free pizzas to the first 250 people to prove that they're loyal to both brands. That's with screenshots to show they're members of both Spirit and Papa John's programs, and then messaging the pizza chain on social media to redeem their free pie.
Oh my gosh, that is funny.
A consolation prize there, a little one, but
yeah,
one.
Love it. And now I want Papa John's. I love Papa John's. Emily, thank you so much. Well, let's turn now to a trend that's heating up. Super fakes. They're counterfeit handbags that look so real they can fool just about anyone. Experts are warning, though, that some may contain harmful chemicals. And, of course, these high-end knockoffs make it harder for shoppers to know if they're getting the real thing. NBC News chief consumer investigative correspondent and News Now daily anchor Vicky Nguyen spent months looking into this growing market of counterfeits. And what she found may surprise you.
This is real Louis next to fake Louis.
Counterfeit versions of designer handbags are the talk of TikTok.
This is definitely, I think, the most real looking one.
Sending a new generation of customers to places like Canal Street in New York City, where our undercover cameras spotted bogus bags from Chanel, Dior, Goyard, and Louis Vuitton, all selling for a fraction of the real deal. How much for this one? So we took to the streets to see how good these fakes have gotten, buying 7 bags from various sellers for $60 to $165 each, thousands below retail price. We also went online, where we found even more expensive versions of the so-called super fakes that come complete with dust bags and boxes designed to make them look legit. Some selling for hundreds, even thousands of dollars, claiming to be made from the same materials and in the same factories as the brand names.
Looks really good.
We showed our bags to Entropy CEO Vidyut Srinivasan. His company partners with thousands of retailers, wholesalers, and resellers, including auction houses, secondhand stores, and social media marketplaces, to verify the authenticity of handbags and apparel.
How good are these super fakes now?
They're fantastic.
Using a special device with a microscopic lens attached to a smartphone, Entropy's technology allows resellers to take photos of a bag's material, hardware, and tiny details like stitching. Then, with the help of AI, the app compares that to its data on millions of verified bags.
So once it verifies and says it's authentic, what comes up?
You get this certificate, right? And then you can share it.
If the item passes, like this real Hermes bag did, Entropy certifies it as authentic with a money-back guarantee.
Can you put that to the test for us?
Sure, yeah.
While they looked good at first, upon closer inspection, we could see small flaws in the stitching and feel of the materials. And as expected, none of our bags passed authentication. Srinivasan warns buyers not to go for the fakes because they can be harmful.
We've tested 1,000+ handbags. 70% of them had hazardous levels of lead on the outside.
He says counterfeits sometimes contain lead and cadmium to keep the bags looking new or to add weight to the hardware, chemicals that can be harmful when ingested. And then there's the problem of super fakes getting into the real supply chain, with fraudsters buying the real bag and returning a fake one. In fact, an annual retail industry report estimates return fraud costs retailers $103 billion each year.
It's impossible to get an exact number. This could be anywhere from a 1% to 5% problem in terms of overall returns.
So there are unsuspecting customers who try to do all the right things, go to a legitimate retailer, and end up with a fake bag.
Yes.
This is a fake Chanel bag. Bethany Frankel is saying she thought this vintage Chanel bag was real. It cost more than $3,000 at a vintage shop.
It was brought to my attention by 2 authenticators that it is fake. I guess these C's aren't straight. We want your bag to be authentic.
Treasures of New York City shop owner Brittany Blanco recommends consumers buy from reputable sellers with good return policies who can provide proof of authentication. It's a service she provided for this Fendi purse our producer inherited from her grandmother.
The hardware looks good, the logo looks good, the stitching. So this definitely has what I would consider green flags.
After an in-person review and a scan through the Entropy database, gold, we found out the Fendi is authentic.
Okay, Vicki, thank you for that report. That was absolutely fascinating. Here's some important things to keep in mind also. Customs and Border Protection agents warn profits from counterfeit goods can help fund criminal organizations and other scams. And they also say shoppers who buy bags online from overseas sellers could face civil, even criminal penalties, even if they didn't realize the item was fake. Important to keep in mind. All right, coming up, history made in the desert of Arizona. One woman's grueling trek over 250 miles for a record-breaking ultra-marathon run in, get this, a little over 56 hours. We're going one-on-one with her next on Morning News Now. We'll end this hour with a historic milestone in the sport of ultra running. Rachel Entrekin became the first woman ever to be the overall winner at the Cocodona 250 last week. It's a 250-mile trail race that takes competitors through the desert and mountains of central Arizona. Well, Entrekin conquered the course and then some with her performance. She cemented her legacy at the race by setting a new course record, finishing in 56 hours, 9 minutes, and 48 seconds. And the champion herself joins us now. Rachel, good morning. I mean, I'm I'm flabbergasted. I don't even know how to put into context how unbelievable it is to me that you are able to do this. Congratulations on this historic win. You are a hero. First, just tell us what went through your mind when you first just crossed the finish line and you're the overall winner.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it really has hit me yet, to be honest with you. But I'm just really stoked. Anytime you get to stop running after running for 3 days, it's just really awesome. So I was mostly just happy to finally be in Flagstaff.
Girl, you should be stoked. This is incredible. Okay, I know you can, well, actually, I know you can stop whenever you want because of researching for this segment, but walk us through that because some people might just think 250 miles, what? How is it possible? What are the options available to you throughout this? And then I know for you, and walk us through this, you only stopped to sleep 3 times but then you just did 10-minute naps or something? Help me wrap my head around exactly what you did and how you did it.
Yeah, so the race itself, the cutoff time that you have to complete it is 125 hours. So it's about 5 days or so. There's aid stations and sleep stations along the way that you can choose to stop at if you'd like to. But obviously, if you're trying to compete towards the pointy end of the race, then you have to really minimize your stoppage time. So for me, I think my average aid station time was 3 minutes. Which, given how long it is pretty good. And then I slept I did a 5-minute nap at an aid station, and then I call them dirt naps, but it's when you just curl up on the ground. And I did that twice for 7 minutes. Both of them were on night 2. So I went the full 36 hours without sleeping.
Okay, and girl, then you're blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Do you fall asleep in 5 minutes?
Yeah. I passed out immediately. It was really convenient, for sure.
And then is somebody waking you up? And then are you like, no, I have to run again?
I did have somebody wake me up, but I was ready to go when they did.
You're amazing. Oh, my goodness. Before you go, just bigger picture, I think it's just so incredible. I mean, again, to just say you're the overall winner here, what do you want somebody listening to this to take away from it? What do you want women to take away from this? Because, I mean, this is genuinely an incredible physical feat.
Thank you. I took the lead at about mile 60, which, given a race of this length, is pretty early. And I remember thinking, oh, my gosh.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.